Hey everyone, glad to see that you could join in for this webinar. It's very encouraging when we come together to make learning a priority for us to explore the trends and new developments related to coaching profession. Since we are all coaches, I'm assuming we are familiar with Zoom as a platform. I would request you to use chat for questions as they come to your mind, and I'll take them in the last 20 to 25 minutes at the end of the session. So to introduce the topic of supervision, I would say that as a practice, it has been around for a long time, more in the helping professions, like in counseling and therapy, but relatively new to the coaching field. It is an established profession and practice in Europe and Australia. And there's a lot of literature and research and books from these regions as compared to the rest of the world. In India, as coaching is growing, so are the coach support practices like coach training, mentoring, and now supervision. Supervision is fairly new, and as a topic is seen with a bit of a skepticism. And I think it's because um, so I think it's because we have incomplete knowledge or misunderstanding about the practice. It is also the topic that normally is not covered in most coach training programs. So the coaches are not aware of what supervision is and are likely to be misinformed or may even have attachments to the word supervision, considering a lot of coaches are from the corporate background, and thus may even respond to it by saying, well, I don't need supervision. Why would I need supervision? I'm an independent coach. So my first invitation to you would be to suspend for our time together what you may already know about the subject so that we can learn together. My interest in supervision comes from my personal experience of being under supervision. About a few years ago, when I got an opportunity to be part of a coaching cohort serving a European organization, it was a requirement that the coaches must have regular supervision. Since I was new to it, I had mixed feelings for supervision myself. Why me, and what does it mean to have a regular supervisor? What will it involve? So I had a lot of apprehensions. But since it was a requirement and I wanted to definitely work with this opportunity, I signed up for supervision and I understood it by being in supervision. So it was great to feel supported and have a sense that I have access to a trained supervisor who I could go to reflect on my coaching work. I clearly remember signing up for a coaching engagement, unsure if I was the right coach, and I brought it to supervision and discovered so much that I was not aware of. That experience served the client, me, and since then I have used supervision on a regular basis. So I'm holding this webinar to promote supervision. I'm also in the process of completing a coach supervision certification program so that I can support coaches in their journey. I'm currently supervising coaches one-on-one and also in groups. So if any of you would be interested, please email your interest to me. So while supervision has served me, my perspective on supervision has grown, and I would invite you to be with um, these questions only for about 5 seconds to nudge you to reflect on your work. Perfect. Thank you very much. So for our time together, I will talk about a few aspects of supervision to bring more clarity around the subject and take you through a small exercise followed by Q&A. So let's dive in to demystify what supervision is. At its simplest, coaching supervision is the activity of reflecting on your coaching work or a client, a situation, or a relationship that is of relevance or importance to you as a coach. Since it's called supervision, if we focus on the element of vision, then this highlights the fact that the activity enhances your ability to see your work from an expanded perspective. By this expanded view on how you practice, you are able to observe the subtle choices you make in client conversations, how you show up as a coach, regardless of your experience, your level of coaching experience. It will be incorrect to say that new coaches need supervision and experienced ones don't, because both will have their own set of topics or challenges. For example, the experienced ones may come up with the challenge with respect to burnout, coaching too many clients, or compassion fatigue, working with similar clients, too many similar clients, or working with too many different clients. When, as coaches, we are supporting our clients deal with their emotional upheaval, it definitely has an impact on us. Or coaches being in the autopilot mode, and that tends to happen a lot with the internal coaches, to name a few. In practice, it is an interaction between a trained supervisor and a coach, for the core purpose that the coach gets to reflect on his or her coaching work in a confidential and safe container. And I'm highlighting here that it's an interaction between the supervisor and the coach only. The client is never present in the conversation. And the reason I'm clarifying is many coaches are not clear about this important aspect. And I can imagine what may cross your mind right now is the confidentiality agreement between a coach and the client. But in supervision sessions, the coach keeps the client or sponsor information confidential. Reflection with the supervisor makes it possible for you to explore the potential for unconscious bias. For instance, your own prior experiences, the backgrounds we come from, our values, cultures, strengths, weaknesses could interfere, in our coaching work. It makes it possible for us to uncover our blind spots. Sometimes, with too much focus and attention on one thing, we tend to miss out on other information which is relevant, and we may not be able to look at it, or it may not be visible to us all by ourselves, or even with the peer coach. In supervision, it's the coach who does the work. Just like in coaching, it's the client who does the work. Supervision is that safe space held by the trained supervisor so that you have the highest comfort in reflecting on your work. Metaphorically speaking, supervision helps you take a helicopter view of your work, and you are more likely to see, or you are likely to see a lot more what you wouldn't see at the ground level. So the core purpose of supervision is that over time, having worked under supervision or worked with a supervisor, you are able to discover your own patterns of thinking and behavior so that you are more aware of how you are showing up with your clients, and you will be able to strengthen your internal supervisor. In coaching, we say we don't see what we cannot see. So when you work with the supervisor, you tend to become more effective and empowered in your professional role as a coach. You are able to operate ethically, responsibly, consistently while you work with the clients, and more likely to adhere to the professional code of ethics. Working with the supervisor, you tend to be more resourced, re-energized in your role. Sometimes we pick up stuff from clients and we are not even aware of that. When we work with the supervisor, we are able to maximize our capacity to thrive long term in our roles as a coach, and able to work with a wider breadth of clients. So with this expanded vision, you will discover that your work with the client has many dimensions which you may not pay attention to while you are coaching a client. So there are multiple stakeholders to your coaching work, and these dimensions play out in many different ways when you work with your supervisor. There are 3 broad areas in coaching supervision. When you engage with the supervisor, you may have a preference for one or more, or all, and that can be part of your supervision contract. The first one is the qualitative, the ethics, the boundaries, the normative aspect of supervision. And this is where the supervisor and the supervisee will partner for ensuring that the supervisee's work is professional, is ethical, and it is operating within the code of ethics, the rules and the guidelines. And this also includes topics which the coach will normally not feel comfortable talking about with peer coaches. Number 2 is the developmental. So supervision supports long-term development and growth in coaches. So this is the formative aspect. The supervisor will support a coach in providing feedback or direction or guidance. So the supervisee is able to develop the skills, theoretical knowledge, personal attributes, and so on. That will mean that the supervisee or the coach becomes a better and a competent practitioner. The third is the restorative, and that is one area which tends to get ignored by most of the coaches. We are so passionate about our work that we definitely have the coachee, in our mind. In terms of support, we have the sponsors. We go distances in supporting the sponsors, but really do not pay attention to what's happening to us when we are working with clients. So in the restorative function of supervision, the supervisor is there to listen to support, to confront the supervisee when some personal issues, doubts, insecurities may arise, and when the client issues are picked up by the supervisee. Now, give it a thought. What is the reason that most coaches do not look up to supervision? And the first one normally comes to our mind is that we get enough informal but enough supervision from our peer coaches, friends, and fellow coaches, or from mentors. Okay. Many of us don't know about supervision. So since, for example, I personally didn't know about supervision when I started my coaching journey. Yeah. So, but now when I look back and see the kind of support I got when I was starting out as a coach, as compared to the support I provide to the coaches now, I can clearly make out the difference between the support a supervision can give as compared to uh, our mentors or peer coaches. Um, some of us are concerned about the cost of supervision. Yeah, but I think what I would kind of suggest here is speak to a supervisor, reach out to a supervisor, and see what does it entail in terms of not only the cost, the commitment, um, you know, um, and how does supervision work practically? Yeah. Um, and of course, there are, you know, experienced coaches who come back and say, well, I don't think I need it. Yeah, I'm an experienced coach. But I think it is important to see if in any way the experience is making us rigid, making us, you know, get into, you know, certain defaults. Is it making us complacent? Yeah. The common topics that come to supervision are many times the clients are stuck. Mm. They are not making progress. And there are times when the coaches also kind of feel stuck with the client, and you know they really don't know what to do. Maybe they've tried some assessments, they've tried certain tools, they've had though in spite of having, you know, great high level of trust and, you know, strong relationship, um, the client can feel stuck and the coach can, you know, feel stuck as well. Sometimes the coaches end up caring too much for the client. Okay, we tend to get frustrated, we tend to get angry. um, yeah, so we can figure out that certain boundaries are being blurred here. Okay, some of us get, you know, um, get very performance oriented, you know. And then of course, not to forget, there are so many stakeholders to coaching engagements. Okay. It's a possibility that in a particular engagement, me as a coach is very close to the sponsor. So I may not be paying attention to if my being too close to the sponsor, how is it playing out in terms of relationship and work between the coach and the coachee. Yeah. Um, and coaching is, especially for coaches who are starting out and they are in the process of establishing their business. Uh, just like being in any other business, it's, you know, they're likely to probably struggle. They're likely to, you know, go through sales pressures, and they definitely need to reach out to somebody who can, you know, provide them some sort of a reassurance and you know, have them restore their belief that yes, they are in the right space, or you know, is coaching a right profession for them. Yeah. um, and there could be many other issues like confidentiality, boundaries issues, conflict of interest. Yeah. So these are the you know, common topics that normally come to supervision. Give it a thought. Um, who does, yeah, who does supervision serve? And the common answers, you know, the top of mind answers will be the supervisor, the coach. But think about it. Is it only, uh, you know, is it only the supervisor and the coach? Yeah. So not only the coach, it is the coach's clients who get served. Um, because of the work the coach and the supervisor, entail. Uh, the the client working with an organization, yeah, and their stakeholders, all of them will derive benefit from the work that the coach and the supervisor would typically entail. Yeah. And once the coach is, feeling resourced, feeling confident, feeling creative enough, it is likely to definitely serve the coach's future clients as well. And overall, if you look at it, it is the coaching profession that gets served if you look at the bigger picture. Let me talk about the professional recognition for the subject of supervision, for the topic of supervision. ICF recognizes supervision as a continuous professional development of coaches, and up to 10 hours of supervision is considered uh, is is considered continuous professional development. Out of the 40 hours that you require as CCUs towards ACC renewal and also for PCC renewal. Okay. Since Europe and Australia have had supervision for a long period of time, the EMCC, AOC, and the other, I think, another two professional coaching bodies, they have made it mandatory for all their coaches to have supervision. So ICF has not made it mandatory. They recommend it. They recognize it. And EMCC, for example, has made it mandatory that for the 35 hours of coaching work that a coach does, 1 hour should be contributed towards supervision. In addition to that, in terms of supervision as a recognized practice, a lot of organizations and even individual coaches are now positioning supervision as a way to promote their work, and they position it as a competitive differentiation while sourcing contracts. So they position it more as a practice to maintain and enhance the coaching quality standard. In terms of distinctions, if you compare mentor coaching and supervision, having explained supervision to this extent, let me talk about mentor coaching. Mentor coaching is a term recognized by ICF, but EMCC, AOC, they do not really recognize mentor coaching. And since we are all credentialed coaches, we have all experienced mentor coaching. Yeah. And as you would recall, the focus of mentor coaching is to enhance and build coaching skills and competencies. Yeah. So ICF has 11 core competencies that all coaches must demonstrate. So be it at an ACC level, PCC, or MCC level, all coaches are expected to demonstrate 11 core competencies based on the credential level that they are applying for or they are preparing for. So the focus of mentor coaching is only to enhance a coach's coaching skills and competencies. And how it is done is either the coach coaches live in the presence of a mentor coach to seek feedback, or the coach may even submit a recording to the mentor coach to seek feedback on the core competencies. Whereas in supervision, the supervision sessions are only between the supervisee and the supervisor, and there is no recording which is brought to a supervision session. Yeah. Okay. Now for this part of the webinar, I would take you through a practice of the